here we are with my replacement Runcam hybrid that I will attempt not to destroy this time. And I'm just trying to rethink how I want to mount this. I think originally I did it with the buttons and the SD card up, but to be honest with you, there are a few solder pads here, and I don't know if I'll ever need to solder to them, but I'm going to do it with the solder pads up just for ease of maintenance. And this time, I am not going to use a fancy tool that will break it. I'm going to put the standoff through, and then with my fingers, I'm going to screw it on. It's hard to do without a tool. I mean, at least this time I'm not turning the gosh darn tool. See, this is the one I broke. I knocked these little resistors off here. Here, I got an idea. So here's what I'm going to do. Before I install it, I'm going to just run the screw through the nut one time, and that should loosen it up, shouldn't it? And that way it should be easier to do by hand. Another way to do it that I don't think would be a good way would be to take the standoff, put the standoff through the plate, and put a nut on the underside, and then use a screw to go down through the camera. But I don't think having a nut on the underside would be a great idea. I mean, maybe it would be a great idea. These nuts are clearly not flipping coming off. I don't like it though. It would get, it's nylon, it would get scraped off, and I don't like it. A nylon nut on the underside of the quad is no good. At long last, the standoffs are installed. Like, please tell me if I've somehow missed a better way of doing this, but there just seems like there's no clearance around those nuts, and it's so easy to damage the freaking $100 camera in the process. Now these screws come through. I'm going to be fine with using them. Plenty long enough for this bottom plate. Well, some of them are long enough. So it looks like there's two super long ones. Oh my gracious sakes. There's two super long ones and then a bunch of short ones. Is that what they intend me to do? I don't know. All right. So I'm just going to do these two at a diagonal just in the interest of time, but I guess, see, the problem is the other screws they've got are so short they won't go through this base plate. So I guess I would need to use my own screws or nothing. That's what I would need to do. Let's cross our flippin' fingers and hope that this thing is working. Yay! The LED is turned on. Yay! It's working. Well, I am super excited to get to go fly this golly darn thing. So, like, normally I might shorten this wire up. Instead, I'm just going to twist it until it folds back on itself a few times and then just plug it in. And that twist will keep the slack out of it, take the slack out of it, keep it from, like, getting in the props or anything. You don't want loose wires. They can just get everywhere. So, we're going to take some Kapton tape, K-A-P-T-O-N is how you spell it. Kapton tape, and we're going to wrap the receiver in that. I like to use this instead of heat shrink in some cases because it's just easy to cut to the right size and easy to apply and easy to redo, and it doesn't weigh hardly anything. This is just going to keep the receiver from like short circuiting. And see, it's just the right size. Alright, we're going to mount the receiver. I think I'll mount it back here on top of the ESC. We have plenty of room there. And I'm just going to get some of this. This is Scotch Extreme Outdoor Mounting Tape. I usually don't rely on this all by itself to hold things down. Sometimes it can, but I will usually just back it up with a little bit of a zip tie. A zip tie. Maybe not. We'll see how it goes. If you heat it, it actually will stick better. Well, it looks pretty good, actually. I never use this tape without heat shrink or Kapton tape or something between it and the component, because that tape actually can stick. I know I just said I don't trust it. It can come loose, but sometimes it sticks so tight that it can actually, I've had it like rip capacitors off the board. Capacitor probably wasn't soldered too good to begin with, but it's always easier to remove that tape if you just have, well, okay, I've just stuck it directly to the ESC, so that'll probably be fine. And I'm going to do the traditional method. I'm going to put this zip tie underneath the motor wires because I don't want to have to redo this if I have to redo the motors for some reason. Oh, but then it's going to really, oh, that's no good. It's going to make them stick up. I don't like that. Change my mind. That's my prerogative. I can do what I want to do. That's my prerogative. See? My prerogative. Bobby Brown. And actually, I'm going to run this on the underside so that if a prop does hit it, well, then it's going to be getting whacked every time we land, potentially. Yeah. I guess I'm going to try and pass it to the underside. For the record, this is 3/32, 3/32 of an inch heat shrink and good old, just regular old zip ties. If you're in the metric part of the world, which is basically all of the world, just convert 3/32 of an inch to millimeters and you'll get pretty close. It's not rocket science. Now the camera, which side is up? Okay, it's gonna be like this. Okay. Where's it gonna mount? Does it? Here's a problem that I'm now faced with. To mount the hybrid, here is the mounting slot for the hybrid right here. This is where the camera is supposed to mount. The hybrid has two holes we can use. If we use the higher one, then it's going to bonk against this standoff here. If we use the lower one, then it's going to bonk. It's a little hard to show, but it's going to bonk against the board. You got to install the flippin' Vtx antenna, and it's on the inside. This is probably the kind of experience that you'll have the first time you do a 3-inch build. This is very representative. You know, that's why I did. That's why I did it this way. Now this is an MMCX to SMA pigtail. I don't think I have just an MMCX antenna that's long enough. And I keep these MMCX to SMA pigtails in several different lengths. This is like a 6-inch, this is an 8-inch, this is like a 4-inch. The exact right length for each build varies. And having an assortment of them, well, let's say if you had to pick one, I think the 8-inch is probably a good choice because, like, I'd usually rather have it be a little too long than a little too short. Long is you're going to be wasting a little bit of signal energy, but you're going to be able to get in the air. If you do a lot of builds, it makes sense to have one or two of various sizes handy. It's going to be okay. That'll be all right, I think. This is a SpeedyBee antenna that Runcam sent, or SpeedyBee sent me. It's inscribed with Know It All on it. Thank you for sending that. I'm going to put it on this build. I want to mount this on the rear, and I want to just secure it like this, basically, so that the SMA is just secure here. I don't want to secure it using this because it'll flop around and damage the coax. And if I put it on this side, it's going to short circuit the battery to the frame and destroy something. So I'm going to put it on this side with the ground so that that won't happen. I guess I could put some electrical tape on it too, just to help with that. Some people say there's cleaner video if you don't let your SMA touch the frame. I don't think that's always true, but I think sometimes it is true. Now, obviously, if I had a 3D printer, this would be a no-brainer. But I don't. Well, actually, I have one, but I haven't got it working yet. I'm going to angle this antenna downward, which will help keep it out of the props. I don't know if that's going to be a problem on this exact build. That the Acrobrat has a risk of having the antenna in the props, but I think the antenna is going to be clear of the props, but it's good practice. I'm going to just take and put one zip tie here, actually here on the back. I'll put this one zip tie here on the back to have some strain relief on the battery connector, so that if a battery ejects, the battery connector will not get snagged. We'll see if I might put another one, depending on if it looks like this is going to end up in the props. That's a maybe. I might actually secure it to this standoff instead. But for now, we'll leave it like this. And there you go. My Acrobrat. Oh, yeah, the camera. When all was said and done, I did get it put together. It is not the cleanest build I've ever done, but it is done. I managed to get the Runcam Hybrid into the build by substituting the standoffs that came with the Runcam Hybrid for just some of my own M2 screws, and this is a nylon M2 nut. And it gives, well, frankly, if I had an M2 washer, I'd put it in too. It's actually one of the inductors is actually touching. Oh, you can't hear it, this one here. This inductor here is actually touching the frame, and I don't love that idea that we're going to crash and we're going to crack it or something, but for now, that's what we're going with. We have a little bit of clearance here. In fact, I could go back and put longer screws in because these nuts are going to vibrate off, I'm sure of it. But for the time being, you can see we've managed to get the hybrid in. It has plenty of clearance. It can pivot without hitting the board, and basically everything's okay. I have mounted the hybrid upside down. It seems to me like having the top lens you can see doesn't stick out as far. And it seemed to me like having the top lens be the one that didn't stick out as far would, you see that if it, I don't want to see this side plate if I can possibly avoid it. So I thought that having it ride a little higher would put it just a little further behind here. Anyway, that seemed right to me. You can flip the image of the hybrid in the menu. Over at the computer, we're going to start with the ESCs and the motors. And it's more important than ever today to have your ESC on the latest version of BLHeli. And that's because the latest version of BLHeli supports a really awesome feature called bidirectional D-Shot, which allows you to use a really awesome Betaflight feature called RPM filtering, and long story short, makes your quad fly way better. We definitely want it, especially on micros. Larger quads sometimes fly okay without it, but especially on micros, we really, really want this feature. So you're going to need to get BLHeli Suite 32. That is the software that's used to flash and configure the ESCs on this quad. I've got another video. If you don't already have it, I've got a video linked down in the video description going through the steps of how to download and install Betaflight and BLHeli 32, BLHeli Suite on your computer. Pause this video now, go watch that video, get yourself set up, and then come on back. If you've already got BLHeli, welcome back, or here we are. The first thing I want you to do is make sure that you have an antenna on your video transmitter. If you power up your quad with no antenna on the video transmitter, it'll be damaged. And then we're going to plug in USB to the flight controller, and we are going to need to plug in a battery to the quad. Make sure that your props are off when you do this. If anything goes wrong, it could be really bad. Okay. So then, in BLHeli, I'm going to select the COM port that is associated with my flight controller. If you don't know which one that is, you just unplug the flight controller and it'll go away. It'll just disappear from the list. Okay, COM 42. I'm going to connect. And I'm going to hit read setup. And I should get 4 sets of ESCs here. Now, right now, they have firmware 32.6. We want to put 32.7 on them. I'm going to go over to the ESC flashing tab. I'm going to make sure all 4 ESCs are selected. I'm going to make sure that they're all set to 32.7, or if it's in the future, if you're watching this from the future, select whatever the latest version is on yours, and I'm going to hit flash selected ESC. It's going to go and it's going to flash all of them. That's going to take a couple minutes. I'll see you back here when it's done. All right, so now they're all flashed. Now we're going to exit. We're going to disconnect. We're going to power cycle the ESC. We're going to go to Betaflight, and we're going to connect in Betaflight. I made your life a little harder than it really needed to be because I flipped the flight controller around and installed it backward. There's a video I made about how to fix that. You can go watch that video if you want to. I'm just going to show you right now the settings you need to put in to make this work right. It's so against my nature to not just tell you the hows and whys, but I got a video showing how to do that. It's linked in the video description. It's the board alignment video. I'm just going to skip ahead now and show you the final settings, okay? First, we're going to back up our configuration by going to the command line, doing diff all, and we're going to save that out to a file on the desktop. The next thing I want to do is go to that file that I saved out before I updated to Betaflight 4.1 and pull out a couple parts of it that need to be put back the way they were. And the parts that I'm going to grab are these features and the serial lines and the LED lines. I don't even think there are any LEDs on this board, but okay. And I'm definitely going to leave all of this stuff out, this master. Just grab these segments. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go to the CLI tab. I'm going to paste that stuff in, hit enter, and type save. In Betaflight 4.1, the on-screen display, the OSD character set has changed. And so the first time you flash a board to Betaflight 4.1, you need to update the font on the OSD. The way you do that is you go to the OSD tab, you go to the font manager, and then you just hit upload font. And you need to do this with a battery plugged in or it'll look like it worked, but it won't actually do anything. And I've actually got a vanity splash screen here that I also use. I'm going to upload that as well. And then I'm going to go to the ports tab, and I do see immersion RC trimp. That's the protocol that lets the flight controller talk to the video transmitter. That's been restored, and UART4 has serial RX enabled. In the configuration tab, we have the correct serial receiver protocol SBus, and in the receiver tab, yes, hallelujah, as I move the sticks, channels are moving. Now at this point, I've got my receiver working, but you may not have your receiver working. If you used Crossfire to UART1 pads, then you know that you didn't use the plug that I used. The plug that I used is UART4. If you direct soldered to another UART, you'll need to enable serial RX for that UART. You can't use UART2 though. I don't think those pads are broken out for you, so that's not an issue. That's already taken up by IRC Tramp. You'll also need to go to the configuration tab and set the correct protocol. For FreeSky, it's going to be SBus most likely. For Spectrum, it's going to be Spectrum 24.8. For FlySky, if you have a FlySky receiver, it'll be iBus. And for Crossfire, of course, it'll be CRSF. You just need to select the right protocol, and you should see these channels moving when you move your sticks. At this point, there are a few more steps you need to do in this setup. You need to set your endpoints, your channel mapping, and set up your flight modes. But I have a whole nother video where I go through those steps, and rather than just repeat it all here, I'm going to refer you to that video. At this point, your receiver channels are moving when you move the sticks on the transmitter. Now that your receiver is working, the next thing you need to do is set your endpoints and set up your flight modes. And then we are just about ready to take this thing for a flight. Well, we gotta put the frame back together, but that'll be it. I actually have a video I created showing how to do those steps. It's the same for every quad you set up. So the next thing in this playlist is going to be a link to that video, which isn't specifically about this quad, but like I say, it's the same for every quad you're going to set up. So go watch that video, set up your endpoints and your flight modes, and then come on back to this playlist, and we'll button it up and we'll take it for a flight. And here is that flight. And since I am now Joshua from the future, and it's been a while since I struggled through these things, I have a much better attitude about all of it. I hope you enjoy watching Acrobrat fly here. It's flying pretty good. The Runcam hybrid, well, I got a review of that coming up on my channel, and so I'll leave you to form your own opinion here. And also, you're not going to get any audio, so because here's what the audio sounds like from the Runcam hybrid. Yeah, you don't want that. But enjoy seeing this fly. I know that anytime I do a build and I don't put flight video in, I get a lot of, why didn't you show us it flying? So here it is. It flies pretty good. It flies different than a 3-inch, like a toothpick style 3-inch. I mean, this guy's coming in at just under 250 grams without a GoPro. The toothpicks come in closer to 100 grams, and you know, you could put a Runcam Nano on them, but of course they're never going to carry a GoPro. They're both 3-inch quads, but a very different weight class. They fly very differently, and I'm going to withhold judgment on this whole Acrobrat thing. If somebody like Tommy Ummagawd loves it and flies it, there's got to be some merit to it, and I'm not going to just come right out the gate and say, you know, here's my opinion. I'm just going to hold my opinion until, you know, like a fine wine. I'm going to wait till it actually. No, I should just shoot my mouth off with the first thing off the cuff, right? No. But I like flying this thing. The real question I think that I want to answer is where does it fit? Like a 3-inch toothpick, it's clear that it's something different from a 5-inch, and it's good in its own way. So in what ways is the 3-inch Acrobrat style good in ways as opposed to just being like a 5-inch but worse, less, you know what I mean? I think that's the question that any different format has to answer. So I'll leave you with this. I'm out of here. I am looking forward to my next 3-inch build that will hopefully go smoother. I appreciate that you've stuck around, and a few of you guys have been just diehard fans of this whole build, asking when's the next one coming out. Yeah, that's going to do it though. Enjoy. It's all. I'm just going to have to keep talking until the video ends. I think I'm going to crash here in a minute. Can I go under here? Ooh, look at me. There we go. Nope, still up, still up. Oh, don't go in the tree, Joshua. I'm having a lot of fun flying it. It's fun to fly. It really is. Oh, yeah, it's a little racing lines, you know, instead of freestyle. It's pretty good. Yeah, around the tree. Oh, yeah, nice handling. I don't even think I have RPM filtering active yet. A little flick there. Yeah, hey, flies pretty good. It's a fun little guy. I've crashed the dickens out of it a couple times too, and it hasn't broken yet, so the durability seems okay. Yeah, that's good. And there you go. That's the end of the battery. Okay, that's going to do it. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. Links in the video description, yada, yada, yada. Bye.